The City of Stoughton is now in session. The Honorable Matthew T. Rothy presiding.
Please be seated. Call the court to order at this time. My name is Matt Rothy. I'm the municipal judge for the Stoughton Municipal Court that covers the City of Stoughton, towns of Dunkirk, Pleasant Springs, and Rutland. I'd like to go through some of the procedures we follow in the courtroom. These procedures would avail you in the pamphlet as you enter the courtroom. We take people on a first-come, first-served basis. When your case is called, please come forward. We take pleas tonight. This is an initial appearance. I don't hear any evidence, or I don't hear this. Basically, we take a plea. The three plea options are guilty, no contest, or not guilty. If you enter a no contest or guilty plea, I'll review your citation. If there's sufficient evidence, I'll find you guilty and impose an appropriate forfeiture. A plea of no contest is similar to a guilty plea, but a conviction arising from a no contest plea cannot be used against you in later civil action. For example, a no contest plea, if you get in a traffic accident and you receive a citation, if you enter a no contest plea, that person cannot use that no contest plea against you in a subsequent civil lawsuit. The forfeitures range from $20 to $1,000. However, almost all are within the $50 to $200 range. The state mandates we add the cost to your forfeiture. For example, a $50 forfeiture will result in a total fine to you of $124. 30 or 60, I can't remember. What are you doing?
30 now that we're back.
Okay. I'll grant you 30 days to pay the fine. If you need additional time, just let me know. We can work out a payment arrangement or more time. If you do not pay, I have limited options to collect. I can intercept your taxes. For some case, I can suspend your driver's license. I'd rather not do that. I'd rather just work with you on a payment plan if you need it. If you have difficulty paying, just let me know. If you enter a not guilty plea, we'll set your case over to the next court date for a pretrial conference with the city attorney. We're still doing this by phone?
Yes.
Okay. So doing the pretrial conferences by phone. We'll give you a time for which you can call the city attorney, see if you can resolve your case. If you can, the city attorney will report the agreement to me, and if it's reasonable, I'll approve it. If you can't reach an agreement, then the matter is scheduled for a trial. At a trial, I hear all the evidence and then make my ruling. Those of you who are facing traffic offenses should understand that upon conviction of most traffic offenses, you'll also receive demerit points. If you accumulate 12 or more demerit points within a 12-month period, you lose your driver's license. You'll also receive a fine. If you have a traffic citation, I'll advise you of the points and your status as well. I'd like you to be aware of some of your rights before entering a plea. You have a right to ask for a continuance. That means you can request that your case be set over for another time, either to consult with a lawyer or for some other reasonable reason. You also have a right to a trial. Please remember your rights when considering your plea. Those of you cited for operating a motor vehicle while under the influence are entitled to request a jury trial in the circuit court upon payment of the proper fees. All their cases will be heard in front of me with the right to appeal my ruling to the circuit court. Okay, that concludes my opening remarks. Again, if you have any questions regarding the court procedures, feel free to ask when you come up. However, I can't hear any of the facts of your case. The prosecutor's not here, so I'm just here to take pleas. If you have a question regarding any type of pleas or what the facts would be, we can kind of review it, but I usually suggest that you enter a not guilty plea just to get a chance to discuss that with the prosecutor. All right, first case I have is Monica Santelli. Good evening, Ms. Santelli. Do I have your correct address on 105th Avenue in Pleasant Prairie?
Yes.
All right. You were cited with failure to yield the right-of-way. This citation carries a penalty of $111.14 and four demerit points issued your driver's license. The reason why I'm reaching for the traffic book is that's actually, it is, remember we talked about, I talked about fines before. This is $40 plus costs. So the city of Stoughton keeps 40, and the rest of it gets divvied up to a host of agencies, so to speak. So the forfeiture range on this type of citation for failure to yield, let me check that as well. I know where to find things, I just don't have them memorized. All right, is $20 to $40. So you're actually at the maximum forfeiture. I can actually go down to $20 for first offense. Now, in addition to that, do you understand what failure to yield the right-of-way is?
Yes.
Okay. You don't want me to, I could review the elements if you would like.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I understand.
In addition to the 4 points and $111.14 forfeiture, there is also a penalty provision, let's see, 34606. If you get convicted of failure to yield a right-of-way, the State Department of Transportation mandates you complete a traffic, or a failure to yield class. It's outside of my control. It's something that's mandated by both the state legislature and the Department of Transportation. So if you get convicted of this, you actually would have to take a class, or otherwise your driver's license gets suspended as well. You understand that?
Yes.
All right. Do you have a probationary license?
I do not.
Okay. So if you have a probationary license, point totals double on the second or subsequent offense. When you say probationary, hang on, I'm going to check your date of birth just to make sure. Probationary license actually lasts until you're 19. Okay. So you do not have a probation license then. Okay. I've gone through the forfeiture, the nature of the traffic events, the forfeiture range, the elements. Do you have any questions for me?
I do not.
Okay. Now is the time I take your plea. Your 3 plea options are guilty, no contest, or not guilty. If you'd like, I can repeat those again, if you'd like.
No, I plead guilty. I just wanted to come and apologize to the city of Stoughton.
Okay. So, so you entered a guilty plea. Now, you realize that if you enter a guilty plea, I must find you guilty?
Yes.
All right. You also review that in addition to the forfeitures, that you also have to take a class to the State Department of Transportation. You understand that as well?
Yes.
All right. Let me review your, what I do at this point, I want to review the police report just to make sure there's a factual basis for your plea.
Okay.
Okay, I have reviewed the police report. I do find a factual basis for your plea, accept your guilty plea and find you guilty. Anything you'd like to say before I decide on a sentence?
No.
Okay. You're taking a class. You indicated you wanted to apologize for the city of Stoughton. Do you want to elaborate on that at all?
No, just, this was my first ticket, anything, accident, so.
Okay. Okay. Because you appeared today, I do have a little leeway with the forfeiture. The forfeiture range on this, as I said before, was $20 to $40. You will have to take a class, but you'll get notice of that from the Department of Transportation. Because you showed up today and apologized, I do have a little leeway with the forfeiture, and I'll reduce that. I'll reduce that to the minimum, which would be $20 plus costs. That would result in a forfeiture of $86.20. Do you need time to pay?
No, I can
Okay.
pay right now.
I'll give you a sheet. You can take that downstairs to the dispatch window. You can make payment at that window, and that will take care of it. Otherwise, if you don't, I always grant 30 days to pay as well.
Okay.
So, all right. Any further questions?
Was there any reduction in the points or still 4?
There's still 4.
Okay.
There's not. That's once you're entered a guilty plea to that. There's nothing I can do with
Okay.
the points. And so, thank you for apologizing. And as far as traffic accidents, that if this is your first one, mistakes happen. Just the forfeiture and points are there just to make sure that, as a reminder, to just drive safely, please. Okay. All right. That's
Yep.
all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Christopher Verba.
Right. Christopher Verba. Mr. Verba, do I have your correct address on Racetrack Road?
Yes, sir.
All right. You have 2 citations. One is for possession of THC as a forfeiture action. This citation carries a penalty of $439. The other citation is possession of drug paraphernalia. That citation carries a penalty of $187. $439, that is actually $300 plus cost. The forfeiture range on this is $50 to $500. So it's a high fine, and I'll explain that in a minute. Do you understand what possession of THC is?
Yes, sir.
All right. You don't need me to review the elements or anything like that?
No.
All right. The other citation is, and you're 18 or you're 17 or over, correct?
Yes.
Because there's a quirk juveniles can get suspended for drug paraphernalia, but not adults. For whatever reason, the DOT set those reasons up. So the second citation is possession of drug paraphernalia. Though that citation carries a penalty of $187. That's $100 plus cost. Forfeiture range on this is $50 to $1,000. You understand what possession of drug paraphernalia is?
Yes.
All right. Now, I've talked about this. I have an option for possession of THC. Reason why I have it as the court policy set at a high policy is that if you take any type of drug or alcohol counseling or take a list of online classes, what I do is that as long as you provide me proof of completion of that class, I reduce the forfeiture from $439 to the minimum of $124. And the reason why I do that is I just want to make sure that people understand the effects of marijuana as well. And I have a list of those classes if you're interested. So you understand the reduction in penalties if you complete the either online class or assessment?
Yes.
All right. I've gone through the elements, the forfeiture, the fine, and the elements, also the THC policies. Any questions for me?
No, sir.
All right. Now is the time I take your plea. Your three plea options are guilty, no contest, or not guilty.
Guilty.
And so you said guilty?
Yes.
All right. You understand that with a guilty plea, I must find you guilty of both citations?
Yes.
All right. Let me read the police report. I want to make sure I have a factual basis for your plea. I have reviewed the police report. I do find factual basis for your plea, accept your guilty pleas, and find you guilty of both possession of THC and possession of drug paraphernalia. Is there anything you'd like to say before I decide on a sentence?
No, sir.
Okay. How long do I usually give? 90 days?
90.
Okay. Would you like the option of attending the online class or alcohol and drug assessment?
No, sir.
You just want to accept the forfeitures as well? I can give you 90 days, allow you to complete that.
That's fine.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you the. I'll give you 90 days anyway. I'll give you the information, and if you
Okay.
complete it in the time, I'll reduce the.
I don't have the information here.
Okay, we'll mail it to you. We'll mail it to you, and then we'll give you 90 days to both either complete the drug and alcohol classes or online information. If you complete it, I will reduce the forfeiture. If you don't, I will. I will not. So I'll give you 90 days to complete that and impose a forfeiture, and we'll mail it to your address then. Let's see. What'd you learn?
A lot of things.
Okay.
Not to be on public property overnight time, I guess.
Okay.
Be at the park over hours. Not a good idea.
Okay. At least you didn't drive home, so I just want you to be careful when you're thinking
Yeah,
about
that's
this.
different too, because I wasn't even intoxicated at all whatsoever.
Okay. Okay. Well, as the law says, it's just possession, and that, you know, even if you weren't intoxicated, that's not before me anyway, so it's, at least
It would
there's
have been
not-
good if I would have drove home.
I'm sorry?
It would have been okay if I would have drove home.
Unfortunately, it isn't, because right now, the Wisconsin law is that if you have any restricted controlled substances in your blood, you can get convicted of operating while intoxicated. So just be careful of that as well. Okay? Once you receive the citations from Detective Hill, you're free to go.
Alrighty. Alright. How much is it?
$4.39 for possession of THC.
I can go down there and pay it right now.
Right now.
It'll be $626 if you're curious. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Lori Langston.
All right, better put my phone on.
I have so many shields in front of me, I couldn't really hear it that well anyway, so it's okay. Ms. Langston, I have your correct address on Vernon Street in Stoughton?
Yep.
All right. You received a citation for theft of movable property less than $2,500. Do you understand what theft of movable property is?
I do. I returned it downstairs.
I'm sorry?
I returned it.
Okay.
It's downstairs.
I was going to say, because in it, the forfeiture on this is $187. It's $50, or it's, excuse me, $100 plus cost. Forfeiture range on this is $50 to $1,000. So you're at the low end of the scale. Do you understand that as well? You mentioned that you returned the property. I just want you to be aware of that a lot of times there's also a restitution involved in some of these cases. Do you know what restitution is? Yeah, when you have to make, if there's items taken, you have to make sure that you reimburse the merchant, whoever you took it from, full value of that. So you don't need to tell me anything more, but I just want you to be aware that there always could be a claim of restitution this as well. You're aware of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's a yes?
Yes.
We're being recorded, so if I make a mistake and you want to appeal my decision, we have to establish a clear record. And we do that
Okay.
by basically making sure that we, you can answer my questions and speaking on the microphone. then.
Okay.
So, okay. All right, I've talked about the elements, you understand them. You understand the forfeiture. I've talked about the restitution. Any questions for me?
No.
Now is the time I take your plea. Your three plea options are guilty, no contest, or not guilty.
No contest.
Yeah, would you like me to review the pleas again for you?
No.
Okay. So basically, guilty means that you're pleading guilty. I always liken that you admit your guilt and then I find you guilty. No contest means you're not admitting guilt, but you wanted it to complete today, and you don't want necessarily a trial or meet with the prosecutor. Or not guilty plea means that you don't believe the city could prove their case, or that you want to meet with the prosecutor. So guilty, no contest, or not guilty. What was your plea again?
I guess I'll go with guilty.
Okay. You understand with a guilty plea, I must find you guilty?
Yes.
All right. Let me read the police report. I want to make sure I have a factual basis for your plea.
Okay.
Okay, I have reviewed the police report. I do find a factual basis for your plea. I'll accept your guilty plea and find you guilty. Anything you'd like to say before I decide on the sentence?
No.
Okay. I do find the forfeiture amount to be appropriate. I'll impose a $187 forfeiture. There's no mention in the police report about if the item was returned or not. If the victim wants, they can always file a restitution report. I'm not going to order any restitution at this time, but just be aware that the victim could always request a restitution hearing, and that would be where we come back and we talk about the value of the item stolen. I could add that to your forfeiture as well.
Okay, so how does it get back to the people, the gas can?
I don't know. I mean, normally, if you
I
could
don't
give it to
know.
them, but nothing was in the police report.
She brought the gas can to court tonight and gave it to me.
Oh.
I gave it to Officer Thurston.
Okay,
Yeah.
The police report about being returned.
okay,
It's been generated yet, it'll be returned to the owner. And
okay, thank you. So I will, that'll be noted in the police report. I still won't order a restitution hearing, and you could still request some costs involved, but until he does that, I'm not going to order a restitution in that
Okay.
case. No. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Samantha Knowles? All right, did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
All right, do I have your correct address on Johnson Street?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You were cited, 2 citations, operating motor vehicle without insurance. That citation carries a penalty of 0 points and a $124 forfeiture. Forfeiture range on this is, do you understand operating motor vehicle without insurance is?
Yes.
Okay. Did you brought something in? Did you bring in proof of insurance?
No, actually, I did have a question for you. So the car that I have wasn't working and is not working again. I was just
Okay.
trying to
How-
get it to
instead of
town.
this, it sounds like that's discretionary. So what I would suggest, and I notice you have a speeding citation too. Let me review the odds, and I'll tell you what I think that should do. So, I'm sorry, operating. Oh, you had 3. Operating while vehicle, operating while suspended. That citation carries a penalty of $124 and 3 demerit points issued to your license. Forfeiture range, that's $100 or $50 plus cost. You're actually that's the minimum, 52, I believe, $1,000. You understand what operating without while suspended is? You understand what that is? Okay. And the third citation is speeding on a city highway 20 to 24 over. That's 6 points and a total forfeiture of $149.20. That's, I believe it's $70 plus costs. $70 plus costs. Forfeiture range on that citation, again, is usually $30 to $300 is the range on speeding. Okay, so I've explained all those citations. Normally, as far as operating without insurance and speeding, I always give a 10-mile-an-hour leeway in speeding. The prosecutor will likely do the same, but you can talk to the prosecutor about the operating motor vehicle without insurance citation. If it hasn't been, if you're not using the car, I'm sure the prosecutor would be interested in hearing that. So
Okay.
I can't really bargain down points or citations, but the prosecutor can.
Okay.
The one exception is I can give 10-mile-an-hour leeway for speeding because the prosecutor would do the same thing, so I expedited matters. But what I would suggest is that you enter a not guilty plea. We'll schedule your matter for a pretrial conference with the city attorney. I'll make sure that you appear by phone, tell them that about the car situation, tell them about the speeding citation, and to see if you and the city prosecutor resolve it then.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
Okay.
would be great.
Okay, we'll do a not guilty plea for all 3 citations. I'll give you the notice in just a minute. Now, make sure on the pretrial conference, make sure that you appear, because if you don't appear, the prosecutor will tell me you didn't appear. I'll find you defaults, and I'll find you guilty and impose forfeitures for all those citations. So make sure that you appear for that pretrial conference.
Okay.
Chance to tell your side of the story, so bring whatever evidence might help you. If you don't have the vehicle or it's been junked, that they might be interested in that as well. And normally I used to say, make sure you understand where the room is, but since this is over the phone, we used to have conferences in a separate room, but we don't have to worry about that either. Just make sure that you appear and then tell the prosecutor your side of the story.
Sure.
Okay. And then, any questions for me?
No, I believe that's it.
Okay. Once you receive the list of the citations, there will be 3 documents, but it'll have the same date on all 3 of them then,
Sure.
same date and time. So
Okay.
that'll be your time to appear or call the prosecutor's office essentially, so.
Okay.
And once you receive that, that will take care of it for this evening then.
Thank you.
Cool. You're a much better stamper than I am.
Lions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Contrail Lions. Mr. Lyons, do I have your correct address on County Road V in DeForest?
Yeah.
All right. You received a citation for battery. This citation carries a penalty of $250 plus cost. Now, battery, that is $150 plus cost. For battery, the forfeiture range is $50 at a minimum to $1,000 on maximum. So it's still a stiff penalty of $250, but you're on the lower end of the scale. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
All right. Do you understand what battery is?
Yeah.
Do you want me to, I could review the elements? You're shaking your head, so I assume no? Okay. All right. Review the elements, forfeiture. Any questions for the court?
No.
All right. Now is the time I take your plea. Your three plea options are guilty, no contest, or not guilty.
Not guilty.
Okay. Well, the not guilty plea, we'll schedule the matter for a pretrial conference with the city attorney. I'll give you the form in just a minute. That means that, see if the city attorney and you can reach a resolution. Bring whatever, it's a chance to tell your side of the story, so bring whatever witnesses or documents might help your case, or mention them at least.
Okay.
And also make sure that you appear at the date and time, and make sure that you call in, because if you don't, the prosecutor will tell me that you didn't appear. I'll find you in default, and then the remedy is I find you guilty and impose that $250 forfeiture. So what happens then is that then you got to pay within 60 days, and if you don't, then I can only suspend your driver's license. No, I have to intercept your taxes, or I'd rather not do that. So make sure that you appear, and we'll see if you can work it out. If you work it out, the city attorney will present it to me. I accept almost all agreements. Occasionally I don't, but it has to be really kind of off the wall. And the other one is, if you can't reach a resolution, it comes back to me for a trial, and I hear all the evidence then.
Okay.
So, all right. Okay. Doesn't appear to be any additional information purposes. I'm going to take a 2-minute recess. I'll be back in just a minute. Emily Alcantara, bond forfeiture. And since we're live in person, what I do at this point is I just go through the people that didn't appear. If they paid the forfeiture, I forfeit the bond and impose the, and forfeit the bond and as payment, and then if they don't appear, I default them and then find them guilty and allow them 60 days to pay? 30 days to pay. We'll do 30 days to pay. All right, Kyle Anderson, default judgment. Alex Baker is a default judgment on both citations. Jared Beatty is a default judgment on all 3 citations. Linda Bernal Valley is a default judgment. Robert Blint is a bond forfeiture. Mercedes Broderick is a bond forfeiture. Regina Broyles is a default judgment. Daniel Bruger is a bond forfeiture. Alondra Calzada Oyarzabal is a bond forfeiture. Malik Marchese Cameron Cuesta is a default judgment on both citations. Brittany Carlson is a bond forfeiture. Isaac Castronovo is a default judgment. Jonathan Conley is a default judgment. Andreas Cruz is a default judgment. Julie Cubbage, the court's received correspondence. Let me take a minute to review it. All right, I've received an explanation. There was a request for a reduction in points. I give a 10-mile-an-hour leeway. Let me check to see where. Okay, it's 11 to 15 over. I give a 10-mile-an-hour leeway, so the court on its own motion will reduce this from 11 to 15 over to 1 to 10 over. That will result in 3 demerit points rather than 4. 3 is the minimum moving violation points. Forfeiture is $898.80, and I'll keep that same at $98.80 and grant 30 days to pay. Michelle Sire is a default judgment. Kyle Davenport is a default judgment on both citations. Gurundardeep Dillon is a default judgment. David Dixon is a bond forfeiture. Jamie Dixon is a default judgment on both citations. Tyler Donlin is a default judgment on both citations. Marquise Driver is a bond forfeiture. Cale Drierson is a default judgment, all 3 citations. Edward Eckhart is a bond forfeiture. Abby Fosdell is a bond forfeiture. Angelica Fry is a default judgment. Oh, no, I'm still working on the Fry. I can check defaults again, or restitution.
Items were returned.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll make the finding that the merchandise was returned. I will not order restitution at this point. But as far as restitution, there's various state statutes. I'm always willing to have a restitution hearing if parties are interested. Okay, so a default judgment, face amount of citation with 30 days to pay. Dennis Geske. Oh, that's why. See, it's a document storage. I thought that was storage of unsightly items. Okay, I'm going to enter a not guilty plea. Well, actually, no contest plea. Let me see this.
He's a former court clerk, so I think he knows the
Okay.
procedure.
Okay, yeah, you would, yeah. Okay, I will accept not really, not really a plea or a defense, it's just an explanation. So court will accept
He
the,
did say no contest.
yeah, the court will accept the no contest plea, find the defendant guilty, and impose the face amount of the citation. Melissa Hendrickson is a default judgment. Name Heta is a bond forfeiture. Tola Hor, upon this motion of the city, the court will dismiss this citation. Eric Hoskins is a default judgment of both citations. Natasha Hubbard is a default judgment for both citations. Stacy Johnson is a default judgment. Sophia Clawitter is a default judgment. Nicholas Kleinfelter is a default judgment. Ethan Clouthis is a default judgment. Sierra Kleiss is a bond forfeiture. Donald Knight is a default judgment. Anthony Darrell Lee is a default judgment on all 4 citations. Donna Lesmonde is a bond forfeiture. Tio Maui is a default judgment on both citations. Oh, I see. What that is. Carrie Mazzarisi is a default judgment on both citations. Frank Richard McLawton is a bond forfeiture. Jason McGinnis is a default judgment. Stevie Mello is a bond forfeiture. Braden Mickelson is a bond forfeiture on the 3 citations. Eric Mickelson is a bond forfeiture. Ashley Miller is a bond forfeiture. Brittany Miller is a default judgment. Demetrius Mitchell is a default judgment on all 3 citations. Janelle Moody is a default judgment. Robin Moore McElroy is a bond forfeiture. Treshawn James Moore Thomas is a default judgment on both citations. Todd Nelson is a default judgment. Avery Ness is a default judgment. Emmanuel Nieves Clauthesant is a default judgment. Check the police report. Nieves. Oh. Okay. I defaulted him. I will not order restitution at this time. Enrique Norman is a default judgment. Citations for criminal damage to property. I will not order restitution at this time, but will be open to a restitution hearing if one of the parties, if the parties, if the party requests it. 30 days to pay. Maddie Parker.
Walmart.
Okay. Default judgment. No restitution. Chase Peterson is a default judgment. Anthony Peterson is a default judgment. Jennifer Peterson is a default judgment. Colin Fluger is a bond forfeiture. Evan Potrikis is a default judgment. Allison Pratt is a bond forfeiture. Brandon Pulley is a bond forfeiture. Richard Rasmussen is a bond forfeiture. Michelle Raymer is a default judgment. Aiden Rada is a default judgment on all four citations. Rachel Royston is a bond forfeiture. Christina Shanahan is a bond forfeiture. Charlie Smith is a default judgment on both citations. Catherine Stemmen is a bond forfeiture. Peggy Swenson is a default judgment. Richard Swenson is a default judgment. Casey Joe Swenson Adams is a default judgment. Andrew Toso is a bond forfeiture. Chase Trefeld is a default judgment. Leah Trevino is a default judgment. Let me check something out. I gotta check something. Okay, thank you. A couple more left. Nathan Vagadis is a bond forfeiture. And Warzniak is a bond forfeiture. Tiffany Whitrock is a default judgment. Jared Williamson is a default judgment. Dakota Witt is a default judgment. Tyler Ziegler is a default judgment, all three citations. And that concludes.
I have actually
my
3. There were some
defaults.
issues that we
Oh.
didn't make it. If you could default.
Sure. Jacob Sands, default judgment on both citations. Jacob Eden is a default judgment. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, that concludes our initial appearances. On our docket tonight, there are no motions to reopen or any other documents, and with that, with no further business being before the court, court is adjourned. Thank you.
I might have some to send to you.